Hey, good morning, Doc Becky. I'm excited to talk about how to engage the offender. Now, in previous life, that meant some fun stuff was going to happen. This for teachers and students probably isn't as fun. It's probably scary as all get out, but we
Mhm.
can talk about some things today that will help them stay alive when the unexpected happens. Is that a fair statement?
Oh yeah, yeah, very fair, very fair. Yep.
So
So
let
I guess some of the things that keeps we see this all the time. It was interesting because I was watching I forgot, it was a news feed, LinkedIn or something like this, and it was these drills that people are doing, where you have these surprise drills, like these simulated surprise attacks, by law enforcement and other and administrators and things like this in schools, and all it's doing is traumatizing everybody. And people get this impression that if you get confronted with the attacker, or somehow you're expected to, like, somehow be the hero, go after the attacker and things like this. And we've seen time and time again that when you use that as a tactic, if you're a non-law enforcement first responder, it's two totally different things, right? If you're a law enforcement first responder, you are trained to go after the threat. That is your job. But for students and teachers, employees, church goers, members, and things like this, your non-first responders, that is, you have no duty to respond. There's no duty to act, and there's a reason for that. You don't have the oath of office. You're not responsible for public safety. You are responsible first and foremost for your safety and the safety of your others, your loved ones, your the kids, the students, whatever happens. And when you also see some, examples of this, during the shooting at the parade, the Super Bowl parade here in Kansas City. We had some bystanders who went and tackled the person, and it was successful. And hats off to them. Again, at the end of the day, it's your decision. But that tactic is typically not one that we teach, because in almost all cases it typically doesn't work out. And one of the best examples I could think of was the Maine shooter. I think it was last year, the guy that had the shootings in the restaurant, and the bowling alleys and things. Instead of protecting the kids with the bowling alley, one of the chaperones decided to take it upon themselves, or maybe it was a cook or a employee, somebody who was non-law enforcement or law responder, tried to take the guy on and was killed in the process. We saw this again in the workplace environment, back, I think, in around 2016, something like that. It was the Gazette newspaper in DC. Active shooter comes in, he's shooting everybody, and this woman uh, goes after him, and she gets killed in the process. And so I just want to kind of, you know, again, at the end of the day, it's everyone's decision on what they're going to do, right? You own your actions, you own your decisions, and everyone has that ability. But for best practices, for your teachers, for your students, for your employees, and things like this, attacking the attacker should not be done as you taking the initiative. It should be done only if, as a last resort, in a defensive situation. And so, one of the most common things that happens on this is when you barricade yourself inside a room, whether it's a classroom, it might be a office space, conference room, bathroom, whatever it might be. And for some reason, there's no lock on the door, you can't barricade it, or maybe you make a noise and the offender notices you're in there, and now you're a target, right? And then he tries to get in, or maybe he can get in. And so one of the things that we focus on here at SafeDefend, in this concept of trying to escape the offender if you can, evade the fender, meaning lockdown, barricading. But if all else fails, you might have to engage the offender, right? And so it's that circumstance, that reactive, defensive posture. It's not a proactive, taking the initiative posture like you would if you were a first responder, right? And so that kind of lays out, the differences, right? And the reasons why, it's not a good idea to make that your primary goal. But that said, if you have to defend yourself, more than likely, if it's in a classroom, it's going to be the offender getting in to threaten yourself, to kids, the students, whoever might be there with you. And so there's a lot of things you can do to prepare for that. What we're looking for is not attacking the offender, but defending the threshold. There's a difference. And the threshold simply means that your space you're in, whether it's an office or a classroom, you've got doors, you've got windows, you've got vents, whatever else that someone could come into. And as soon as a body part or a weapon crosses that threshold, whether it's the door being pushed open or a window that's been broken and they're getting in there to unlock it, whatever, that's what you're going to attack. And those are the things that you're going to focus on. I don't know if you have anything else to say on that before I go on.
Well, I think it's important to understand that even people that are highly trained, when they first encounter a combatant or a violent person, they don't know how they're going to react when it happens. I don't care how much training you have. Some people freeze, some people go do the action. And these are people that have hundreds of hours of training. So it's unfair to expect just a normal person with no training to respond in a way that's going to result in anything good, right? And what I mean by that is a lot of us out there have, we're going to protect our family at all costs, but sometimes we want to do the right thing, right? Well, the right thing is getting your family away from the situation and out of harm's way and not sacrificing yourself. It's not what you're trained to do. I appreciate those that take it on themselves, but most times it does not end the way you would hope that it would end. So what I'm saying is you're reducing the odds of survival for you and your family when you do that, when you take that action in your own hands. Like Doc said, it's very important to analyze the situation, take appropriate action. For those that have stepped into it, I'm glad nothing happened to you. I'm very happy that it turned out the way it did, and God bless you for that. But for most people listening today, you need to think of a snake that's cornered, right? Until the snake is cornered, it will typically run away, right? Typically, when an animal is approached, as long as you haven't cornered it and you haven't threatened it, it's typically going to walk away. Well, I hate to break it, everybody. We're animals, right? And by us not following that process, we're limiting our ability to survive. Unfortunately, we have more advanced brains than animals do, and that's why we feel like we can fight, right? Animals, fear of survival. I'm going to run first, and I'm only going to fight when I have to, right? Unfortunately, we're smarter than them, so we're going to fight first sometimes and whatnot, which doesn't always work out well. So what I'm saying is, if you think about just your animal instincts, get to a safe classroom, try to lock the door. If they get you in the corner, then what's the first line of attack? And what Doc said is really simple. If that door comes open, you hit them in the hand as hard as you can with whatever you have, right? If you have pepper spray, you hit them with pepper spray. If you have a baton, you hit them with a baton. If you have a ruler, whatever you have that will distract them and get them to back away, take action, protect the threshold. Don't approach the offender face to face if you don't have to. That's a last resort. So let's just break it down really simple. Our goal is to ensure that ourselves and our students survive in that event. Fair, Doc? So
Absolutely.
Let's go back to animal brain and take the path of least resistance to save as many people as we can.
Yeah. And then, in terms of okay, what to do if you're in that situation. Now like you said, the snake was a great example, right? If you're walking through if you're walking, down a path out in the woods or something, you hear the rattle, right? What do? You freeze, right? Then you look. And then if you see it, you run, right? You fly or flight, right? If you corner it, like you said, you got to fight. Now, if that does happen, obviously you want to use the best tools possible. Now, if you happen to have a SafeDefend system, you might very well have the right tools. And the right tools is not firearms or tasers or things like this. The right tools are things that are easy to use, gross motions, and can be learned very easily. And what we have chosen for most of our customers is a expandable baton, okay, and also pepper spray. Now we have a strobe light and we have other tools, but your primary offensive weapons here are going to be, as soon as you see that person's face, you spray them with a pepper spray, right? And you can be 21 feet away, so that's a good thing, right? To keep that space between you and the offender. If that hand or that gun or that knife or that foot or that head crosses that threshold, whatever it is, that's your target. And don't stop until the person is no longer a threat. Now, the caveat to this, obviously, is that the standard is always death or serious bodily injury. If you've got a person with a gun looking for you, that is all you need. That is natural fear of death or serious bodily injury. If by chance you do disarm that person or subdue that person and you have it under control, you do have to remember to stop, because you don't want to turn it into a situation where now you become the offender, you now have committed a crime, and maybe you've just committed a murder, and now the whole tables have been turned on you. So again, it takes training. You've got to take the training. We offer the training. You got to understand a little bit about use of force. How do you utilize these weapons? If you don't have these weapons, then pre-stage your rooms with stuff that you can use as weapons, tools, coffee cups, whatever, and practice with it. And at the end of the day, if you have adults that you typically might have to barricade with, have a plan. Everyone needs to have a job. Everybody takes a body part, right? And just focus on that. Have a pre-plan so that if this horrible event happens and the offender crosses that threshold, you've got your weapons available or your improvised weapons ready to go. You have a plan. Everybody has a job and a role, and you take care of business. And once you have handled the situation and that person is no longer a threat, you have to back off. You can't continue to being applied deadly force. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think the big rule of thumb there is just remember, once a person becomes incapacitated, you have to stop, right? Once they're down on the ground and they're incapacitated, you can no longer continue what you're doing from a legal standpoint. I'm not a lawyer, but that's what all my judge friends tell me when we talk about this, is that's the point when you can't continue. Now, granted, that's for a judge and a jury to decide if it happens, but just keep that in the back of your mind. Don't go too far if you're confronted that way. And again, it's hard. It's easy for me to say that here in a 0G environment with nothing going on. When you're in the heat of the confrontation, do what it takes to take care of your family and your students and whatnot, right? But remember those general rules for what the legal system says. But I think it's important when we talk about engaging the offender. Engagement is the last thing we do because our life is threatened and we have no other choice. I mean, that is the absolute last resort. We want to escape and evade first, if capable, and if not, then we have to engage. And that is I can't say this enough, that is the last resort for anybody that is not trained or licensed as a police officer or under the authority of the law, because you don't have the training. It's very hard when bad things happen and you don't know how you will react. So we can't overemphasize that enough. So with that, Doc, don't engage the offender unless it's all you got left to do. Is that fair?
And when you subdue them, you got to stop.
And when they're incapacitated, you have to stop. That's right. So with that, for SafeDefend Live, please stay safe out there. Take care of your students, take care of your teachers, take care of your fellow citizens. And with that, David.